Okay, so this webinar assumes that you have already used protocols.io and are a little bit familiar with it, as this shows you a bit more of the functionality in the tool. So just some housekeeping. This is being recorded. You will receive a link to the recording and these slides. Q&A at the end, but feel free, as I've just said, to pop any questions during, either in the Q&A or the chat, as you think of stuff, and just some links to other opportunities for different webinars, or if you wanted a one-to-one demo. Okay, so this is mostly going to be live demo today. I will run through a variety of different functionalities that we have in protocols.io. So giving you a bit more of a view into the editor, some of the things that you can do in there, and also within the file manager, how you can leverage content that's already in protocols.io, make copies and forks of things, how you can create collections and different ways to share content in protocols.io. So I will jump out of the slides, and into, hopefully now you see my file manager. So when you log into protocols.io, you come into whichever workspace you were working in most recently. Most users will only have one or two. These are the different workspaces that you might belong to. On the left, you can go between them. If you open out, you can see exactly what they are. I have many because I end up being added to lots of them. Most of you users will only have one, maybe two, or just a handful, depending on how many collaborations you might have on protocols.io, but you can jump between them. So right now I'm in my workspace, Emma's workspace, in the workspace folder, this view. If I want to look at the profile view, I can switch between here. So here we can see other things, different members. There's only me really in this one. It's one I use for demos and things. So once you've made your workspace, you can set up different folders so that you can arrange your content in here. I've got a folder for this webinar, but you can also have files you want to export, run records, different levels for the protocols, ones you want to import you've not done yet, some in development, published ones, unpublished that are working and fully kind of done. I'm in this one today. I've got a couple of things I'll run through with you. So this is workspace view. And then if you open one of these protocols, you will come into the editor. So we will start with, this is what a new protocol will look like if you make a new protocol. The only thing I've done to this protocol so far is give it a title. There are ways that you can import protocols that you have in another format. So if they're in a Google Doc or a Word doc or a PDF, you can copy paste in steps that you already have. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So on this page, you can see very small text, insert steps from a text file. If you have an existing protocol, you can do this. So we'll click to do this. I have, one that the Zoom buttons are covering my screen. One that I prepared earlier. This is a Google Doc that I have, which has a bunch of protocol steps. And it has a whole protocol in it. So it's got a title, author list, abstract, before you start, and then the steps. So we will grab all of the steps, and I am going to right click and copy. Hopefully you can see me doing that. I'm not sure what comes through when I share. And then I go back to this. Each number is a step. That's right. All of my numbers were steps, but you could have it that each line was a step, or you might have markdown text. And then we will paste and match style is the best way to do that. So if it's not showing, what you do is right click and then select paste and match style. And my steps 1 through 16 have been added in here. So the reason for paste and match style from the Google Doc, I don't think it's a problem, but if you're doing it from a Word doc or a PDF, sometimes there's a lot of tagging that you want to remove. You don't want to show up when you paste it in. Preview, and there I've got my 16 steps. They've all been added. Add to the protocol, and they all get pulled in as individual steps in the protocol. So this is a really quick way, if you've got existing protocols out there that you want to get in, of putting them into protocols.io. So it's a bit slow because I think just over my internet with Zoom running at the same time, it's probably faster if you're not already online doing a call or something. There we go. So my steps 1 through 16 have been added. It's all just plain text, hasn't made use of any of the components, but you can come through and add those things afterwards. So for example, 95 degrees C, we can change that. Whoops, it lost the actual number, but 95 degrees C. So we can do these things and put the components in. Duration 5 minutes. So that one did go correctly. So you can come through and add it. And it's, if you do use this functionality, you should always check, because sometimes special characters or specific formatting things may not have pulled in exactly as you want them. So you should always go back and double check that it's exactly as it was in the original. All of the other items that were in there, the abstract, the author list, I can put those into. It is an individual copy paste, but it's not going to take too long to do that. And then view, whoops, we won't rate just now, but all of my steps now are in this protocol. I can run it in here if I want to. So if you haven't seen how you run a protocol, you can do this dynamically to step through all of the steps of your protocol. So the first step, we say we've done that one. This step, actually, because I've got the time in, I can even run the timer in the platform. So I could start that and it will count down my 5 minutes. I won't actually do that just now. If something strange happens, fire alarm during this step, you can make a note so that you can save a run record afterwards, and you'll see if something weird happened or you want to make observations in here. So we can say, okay, we've done that one. This one, maybe we're actually going to edit this slightly on the fly. Oops, I've made some changes to this step just for today. And say done, and they'll get added. That doesn't change the original protocol. It just changes the step for the run record that you're creating today. So then we'll say you can see where your progress is. You can add. You can see the notes, any notes that you put in there here. Steps we're still going through. History as well. What I've done going through. Step, 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 till we've finished. And then we'll save a run record. So I will just put this into my tips and tricks webinar. So you can have a look and see. And I'll say conducted on now. So it will give me a date and timestamp for the run as well. So now if I go back to my file manager, there we are. There's the run record that was created today by me, and it's a different color, so you know that's a run record. So it's a really cool way of being able to perform the protocols that you've imported this way. Okay, I'm going to move on to components and adding in things like videos and images and tables. So this is another protocol that I've created ahead, and I'll run through how you use the components. So this gives you a link to all of the components. When you first make a protocol, it will ask you whether it's generic biology, computational chemistry. The only thing that does is preload the components that we think you're most likely to want to use for that subject. So computational has data set and software and a few other things that we think are more likely to appear for computational. Chemistry's got some specific more like pressure and humidity, pH, and so on, spectral data. You can grab all of them here. So this has all the different components that are in protocols.io. And when you're making the protocol, you can embed other protocols that have already been created. So if there is, buffer needs to be made before you start, you can say before starting the protocol, you must complete this other protocol. And so it will link it in. And if you run the protocol, it will open out that sub-protocol as well as a part of the run record. So that is using the protocol editor here. And you will literally just search by name or author of that other protocol to add it in. I just popped that one in ahead because it can take a moment just to find them and put them in. The next example that I will show you is sample. This is quite a new component that we've added. So if you refer to a specific sample all the way through your protocol and that you've created it at the beginning, you can generate a component for it. So we'll call it my special sample, and description I'm going to just say as generated in step 2. So now I've got my special sample, and this is the instructions for creating it. So I've got, different reagents that I'm adding together. It's pipetting. Oh, that's quite cool. I can add a step note on the left-hand side to show at a glance what it is that you're doing in that step. These are components I've already added. So these are the amount component, and you can pop in quantity. There's all sorts of different units that you can choose from, and you can put in what it is here as well. So we've got 3 different units. The nice thing about this, if you run, you can scale that step on the fly to generate more if you want to generate more. So we've got my special step. Okay, so we've done that. Oh, look, we're going to call again my sample. So here I can just create that. So each time then I can put that in. I haven't added the quantity here, so that's the amount. So that's quite nice. That just adds in. This is 20 ml of buffer. So we'll just say buffer or biffer and pop that in. And we've got the time, so we can do duration. And again, that will mean I can actually, let me make this slightly larger. I don't know how it's coming through for you. Now you can see the time shows up. If I use the timer, it will actually pop a time in the step as well. And overall, it will count. You can see then the steps and how long things will take. You can add a note. I'm not going to go through all of the components, but I'll just run through some of the main ones. So important note. Oops, I'm not in the note. We'll type the note. I'm not going to put anything in there, but we can put this in. We can show collapsed as default. And then when we view, I guess I should be toggling between a little bit. Keeps wanting me to pop it in. So when we view, you can see that it's collapsed when it opens up. But if it was a longer note, you can then open it out and see all of the information. So if you're a pro doing this protocol, maybe you don't need to read the note. But if you're not, then it will be collapsed when you see it like this. I was going to look, you can see the protocol. When you run it, it will open out the sub-protocols like this too. It's quite nice. We'll go back to edit. So we've added a note. We can also add similarly safety information. And again, just like the note, you can show collapsed as default. Wear safety goggles. Things might explode. So you can add, whatever's relevant, you can pop these in as you go through. The next one here is the smart component. This is a really nice feature. I have already created it here, but if you are wanting to add, let's just show it where it is. The smart component is just this one here, and this is how it shows up when you first look, and you'll just write add row. So you can continually add different rows. You can require or not, and then add the component, but I will take that one out. This one I've already made. So I have said cell number, and I require an answer to this, percent atrophy. So, how many of those cells are dead, and I require an answer to this. So that's already in. When I run this protocol, I will not be able to pass this step until I've completed these 2 fields. I have to put a number in or something in there, be able to complete and say done on that step. So that means you kind of prompted to give the information. You can add sub-steps. So this is more of just functionality within the protocol editor. So these on the left kind of allow you to do things with the steps. These are formatting or inserting comments. So you can add sub-steps. So if there are multiple parts to this, you can do as many sub-steps as you like. Sections, hopefully you already know, you can create new sections. So I've got section 1, section 2, they get color coded, and you can see the table of contents. So you've got the different sections here, and if you view the protocol, they show up as a table of contents. So that's quite nice too. If it's a big, long, comprehensive protocol, that means you can jump to wherever the relevant part is if you've kind of had a pause step overnight or something like this, or it's day 1, day 2, etc. We'll go back to edit. So we are down to sub-steps. Okay, so we can add images and videos and tables. So let me show you how you do that. These are using some of the tools on the top. So you've got an insert image or video and embed media. We will start with the insert image or video. You can navigate to wherever the content is on your computer or drive or wherever you're working. Find the image that you want to add in. So maybe you've got a picture of the setup. Maybe you've got a little movie of how you do things. So if they're short movies from your phone, you can add them using this functionality like this. So it pops it in. I can resize very easily, and I can give a legend to the figure as well. If I want to remove it, just delete it. I can pop a drop shadow just to show where the image is. So that's quite nice. Means you can do a lot more than you would do in a paper materials and methods. As noted, you can put a short video that's not bigger than, I forget what the file limit is, but there's a help page with the file limit. So if it's a short video off your phone or something, you can add it in that way. If you have a more detailed video that you want to add in that's longer and larger, you can put the video somewhere like YouTube or Vimeo and then grab the embed code. So I will show you how to do that. So we grab embed media. So it's going to say post your embed code below. I, again, have one that I found earlier. This is a silly challenge to make peanut butter and jelly. If you haven't watched it, it's a very fun video. I'm going to put a link in. It's about reproducibility. I popped a link in the webinar chat. From here, you click share and then embed, and it gives you the embed code. So we'll copy that and go back, paste that in here and save. And it pulls the link straight into the video from whichever other platform you're using. And that can then be played within the protocol directly. So that is really nice as well. Again, enhancing ability for a protocol to be reproduced, for someone else to know exactly what you're doing, and things like that. Perfect. You can also add tables. So I've already put one in, but just to show you where you find that, it's like Word or Google Docs. You just grab at the top, pop it in. You can copy a table and paste it, remove, add, insert columns, insert rows, and so on. I'll take that one out because I already have this one. Within the tables, you can use Excel-like formulas. So I've added some info here, but I can say equals sum A2, B2, and that will give me the sum. And then I can drag around, and as I add, we'll have the numbers here again. So for content that you're creating on the fly, you can also leave these cells empty, but have the formulas in and then complete them within the protocol run. So perhaps you want to gather that information as you actually kind of generate the results and look at the data that you're creating, and it will perform some of the formulas for you within that protocol run. So it's another nice feature. If you have a protocol that has different step cases. So you maybe have different scenarios depending on conditions that you want to include within this one protocol. You can do this here. So I've already added the step case, but you can do that. Let me see if I go back to the previous one just to show you how you add one in. Let me insert a step. So I'm adding another step, and here I can add a step. Sorry, I'm looking for the add a step case. So I can do that here. I can also do that over here. So add step case, and we will just put, first case in number 1. And that gives me the first step case. I can add another one. Second step case, 2. Here we've got 1 and 2. So these have been added in. Now note that 1 is the one which then follows with the other steps. 2 doesn't have them. So normally you'd be starting here and you probably wouldn't already have steps following. But you cannot remerge after you've made a step case, but you can copy steps to paste them so that if you do something different, but then you come back to the same, you can just paste them all in below. So I already made one here, condition A. If A, follow this pathway, you can add more info. If B, follow this. And different things show up underneath depending what you've added. Condition C and so on. So that allows you to include quite a lot of information within the protocol that you're working on. And then I've added here, this is quite a new component. We've lost all the components on the right. This is for well plate map. If people are doing screens, they can add in a well plate map. Oops, don't know what, that doesn't seem to be opening just now, but it shows you the well plate like this. And you can add in different information about concentration, whatever it is that you want to put in there to show the well plate, how you want people to put things out. It's very new. If someone uses it and has feedback, please let us know. But we hope it will be useful. People have been requesting things like this. You can use go to. So at the end, new step, we can say go to. We'll say section 1. And then it gives me step 2, go to step 2. So if I'm running the protocol, I can jump back up and go back if something needs to be repeated over and over. So that is kind of all of these. You definitely should just play around with them and see things that are relevant. There's centrifugation, citation, you can put in a reference. So if we want to add a citation, let's look for Lenny is my boss, Lenny Tatelman. Here we go. Here's one about protocols.io. So it's pulled in the citation and we'll save that here and it's added it. And the really nice thing about the citations, if you add them in, is that when you view the protocol, you will then see a references tab, which will have any citations that you've included within the protocol in it as well. So that's pretty neat. So those are the main things for the components. I am going to talk next. It was file manager, fork versus copy, collections and export. So we have a really nice help page about fork and copy and what the two options are. So these are ways that you can leverage content that's already available on protocols.io. So fork is if you're creating a different protocol that has modifications from existing protocol. So we've got some use cases. So fork a single sample protocol from multiplexing different kit or equipment from the same technique, or slight modifications for different samples, species, strains. Not sure what the example is. I've got some examples anyway. Copy is functionality that only exists for the actual owners on a protocol. So you can make a duplicate of your own protocols and modify them as needed. So it may be that you've created kind of a template for something that you do in a variety of different ways. You can then use that to make copies as you create different ones. So maybe you have a collection of protocols with the same abstract authors, affiliations, acknowledgements, but the steps in each one are different. So you can create your template for the protocol with all author info and all of that stuff, make a copy, and then start making new protocols. So the fork, though, let me give a few really nice examples of how that's actually been used. Oh, that's collections. We'll come to that later. Let me move that to the end. So benchtop, actually, I don't know if this is a good example. Maybe not. Well, no, yeah, this one doesn't have many public forks, but it has 196 private forks. So behind the scenes, people have been forking this like mad, making their own copies. I can't see what they are, but this is a really nice one. I don't know. No, similarly, the other versions don't either. This one is a really great example. So this protocol was just published at the end of last week. It's a single version, April 14th, 2023, midnight SARS-CoV-2 genome sequencing. So you can see that this was forked from another protocol that someone else has already published on protocols.io. So these authors are Auckland and Massey University. The one that they forked from, SARS-CoV-2 genome sequencing, I have that open too. There's a tiny bit of overlap with the authors, but this is a slightly different protocol. Title's different, has 6 versions. And this one was forked from another nCoV 2019 sequencing protocol. So I have that one. I think I have that one open as well. Yeah. Okay. So this was the one that one was forked from. And this was the first SARS sequencing protocol, version 1, very, very early pandemic, January 2020. And that was put up so quickly because it had been forked from an Ebola virus sequencing protocol that was already published on protocols.io at the end of 2019. So you can make a fork of this if you want, or any of those others, make a fork, put it where you want it. So we'll just, well, let's pop it in the tips and tricks. I'll do that. We'll call it Emma's copy. It will be private. When you do this, they always start out private. And then I can view it, I can edit it. So I can edit the new fork, close, and it's got my new title up here, but I can make any changes that I want to this to make it relevant for a different virus, to change conditions, to make it relevant for equipment I have in my lab or something that's just distinct and how it's going to work for me. So if we go back to my file manager now, you can see that I have this Emma's copy, shows up in my file manager as a private file. These don't have version numbers because they've not been published. They're all private. And at the top of that one, if we view it, it will show me where it was forked from. So it is a really nice way of being able to find a protocol on protocols.io. Someone else maybe has created it, making a fork and adding your changes and the relevant things to it. And what's brilliant is that you can see the subsequent reuse, which is something that's quite hard to do in research often. Whoops, sorry, trying to click on forks. So this one, if we look at the forks, there are 3 public forks and 3 private. That's the Ebola one. But you can see these, the coronavirus sequencing protocols were the main ones, or I can see my private one, but I can't see anyone else's private one. But if I open all and open this out, you can see there are many, many different forks, copies, versions, new things that have been created as a result of that Ebola sequencing protocol being added on protocols.io. So the reuse of this is just phenomenal, and it's amazing to be able to see. So these are all public ones. I wouldn't see them if they weren't public. So it's pretty impressive. It goes on and on for this protocol. Most don't get this amount of reuse, but just to show that it's a really nice way of seeing how your protocol has been used in the community. So metrics for this one also, it's not actually that huge. The one that has the massive amounts of visibility are the coronavirus ones. So this has had over 200,000 views, nearly 5,000 exports. People have bookmarked, many forks, many comments. I didn't talk about comments yet. Let's have a quick, just show you comments. So another brilliant functionality is you can come in and add comments to protocols if you have questions or you want something clarified. So users have come in, they've popped a question. Josh is the owner of this protocol. He's given answers too. So then anyone can see those questions and answers. Comes like a live FAQ for the protocol. So if I wanted, I could add a question here, ask my question. We encourage people to do this publicly, obviously, because then other people can do it. And I would post it, and Josh would get a note saying someone's added another comment to your protocol, and he can come and respond if it needs a response. I won't do that now because he's got enough to do with one of his own protocols already. But you then have this amazing ability to go back and look at the questions and answers. So rather than emailing an author of something and having a private correspondence, there's essentially this massive live FAQ of information that helps others know how to use those protocols. The next thing down is collections. So we don't need that one. I had opened a collection. So what's a collection on protocols.io? So this is a way that you can create a holder for multiple protocols. So there are a few really good things about doing this. One is you can create a container for a publication. If you're publishing your protocols and making a DOI, getting a DOI, you can add that DOI into your research articles, materials, and methods. If the paper has multiple protocols in it, you can put them all into one container. So this was a published collection with a PLOS biology paper, and you can see they've just called it methods and protocols from, and a link to what the paper was itself. And when you go down, you can see all of the different protocols have been added in to the collection. So one of the big benefits of this is if you are publishing multiple protocols for a paper, rather than having to go through the publish process, which I'll show you quickly in a minute, multiple times, you can just publish the collection. And when you do, all of the protocols will be published as well. They will all get distinct DOIs contained within this collection. So you can see this has got a DOI here. If I open one of these, it will have a different DOI. And Sandra, I can see your question. I'll answer it in just a second for you. So this has got a different DOI. That one was R88D9, and this one's HHEB33. So they all have their own protocol DOIs. And you can see this is in 2 collections. So it's in that collection, and I think we already had it. We had it in a Oh no, they have it in an earlier version because they've made a new version of that protocol collection. So those are super easy to make as well. So if you're in the file manager, you can say new. Sorry, I've got things again. Zoom windows blocking things. So new collection. So here you can do new folder, new protocol, new collection. We'll say pop it into my webinar test folder, and then you can just call it my collection, search public, let's search my files. So we've got, these are things people have either shared with me or my files. I think, well, I have access to lots of different. Let's see if it will let me just look for ones I own. Okay, so we can pop in the Ebola virus one that I just made earlier. We can pop in my component examples, which is the other one I was editing earlier. We can pop in my importing steps, the other one I showed you earlier. So once they're all in, I can change the order if I want really easily, and view. That will show me the different components. Of course, you can add the abstract and all of the author list and all of the other information that you would to a protocol on here. So you can give descriptions, give it an image, do all of those other things, put references in. So very, very easy to do to make your kind of containers, but they don't have to be published. Maybe that's a way of you keeping content together in the file manager. If you've got a bunch of different buffer instructions or other protocols that you want to group as collections, you can do that this way. So super easy. Sandra, you asked, is it possible to publish a fork by share? So let me go back. This was my fork. And the next thing we were going to talk about was export, but sharing is after, but I'll run through sharing while I'm in here. So I can share this protocol. So if I click under more, you'll see a bunch of different options come up. So we can still edit, we can reserve, DOI, post draft, or publish. Look at other things I can do around, and then share is here. So this won't publish it, but I can share it with other people. So share gives you can get a private link if you know the person that you're sharing with doesn't use protocols.io and you just want to give them a link. So if you're submitting for publication and you just want to give a reviewer a link, this is the same on any protocol, by the way. Doesn't matter if it's been forked or it's one that you've created from scratch, you'll have this functionality on all of them. So you can grab a private link, copy that, give it to someone. They'll be able to come in and view, but they won't be able to comment or anything unless they do make an account, but they will be able to view it and give you feedback. If you want blind review means we will remove all author information. So if it's a journal that requests or does blind review, I think it's quite rare, you can get that if you want it. Otherwise, you can share with email. So we'll add Lenny, he's my boss. So I can add him. He then appears as someone who has access. He won't have it until I click save. But for anyone I add, I can control the permissions they have. So can view, can edit and publish, co-admin. With that, he can edit and publish, but he wouldn't be able to move it or do anything like that or delete it. Co-admin would mean he could do those things as well. So he can be added. I can also share with other workspaces. So I have a demo one. So I could put that demo workspace in here as well. If you want an individual folder in there, you can do that, but we won't. We'll just put it in the demo one. And again, can change the permissions that other users in that workspace have for this protocol. So I could make it so they can edit or maybe just view, excuse me. So those are the kind of share options. Notify them by email. They'll get an email telling them you've shared. I'm not going to save it because I won't harass Lenny with my test one, but that's how you add people and share. So those are before, if you don't want to make it public, but you want other people to have access, that's how you do that. If you're ready to publish, there's a really good help page about publish versus reserve DOI. The pathways are exactly the same, but at the end of reserve DOI, it won't yet be published, but you will know the DOI that the protocol will have. So if you don't want to make it public until you publish a research article, you can use reserve DOI to put a link DOI into your research article, and you'll also get a private link so reviewers and editors can access the protocol. You do have to come back then and publish it eventually when the paper is published, but we always recommend publish. Or I can't publish because sub-protocol. Oh, okay, because it's got a sub-protocol that I don't own. I can't publish this one. But if you forked the sub-protocol as well, then you'd be able to publish anything in there. I was wondering if I could find it. I probably can't on the fly. But just to show you the publish step for one of the other ones. So this is one of my example component one earlier. The publish process is pretty easy. You will be forced to fill in some things if you haven't when you publish. So you will have to put in an abstract. We always recommend just giving a bit of context. If it's kind of got public health implications or there's some other disclaimer, you can put a disclaimer in. So we have some suggested text if it's kind of public health or medical, just to disclaim that it shouldn't be taken as formal advice. But you can also use this box if you want to disclaim something else up here. It has got a sub-protocol, has a title. This will also need, I don't know if that's working. It's very slow. Catching up with my typing. So you have to put those things in. You have to complete those steps before it will let you go ahead. But yes, we seem to have gone very slow. Okay, so that's let me click next. Then you add authors. So we'll just add me as an author. I'm already an author on that sub-protocol, but here's where you can add other people too. You will have to either say doesn't apply about funders, or you can add your funder. So we could say, oh, I've got something from the Wellcome Trust and my grant ID. So that goes in, and then we've got the authors and funders. If you've been having comments with colleagues, you can remove all of those comments at the time of publishing. Is it working, or is it an in development protocol? So this is still in development, but it's a research protocol. Some people add non-research things. So, if you're coming in with your recipes, you can click non-research. Next. You can share it to other workspaces that you belong to. So if you're working in your workspace, but you've got a lab workspace that when you publish, you want all of the published ones to go into and be shared, you can just show it on that workspace. I won't do that here. As I say, I belong to many, so we'll go next. Preview. It is important to go through the preview because sometimes you've maybe got a dangling extra step at the end, or things that you just want to tidy up, or you can see if you've just got lots of extra lines that you want to remove somewhere. Next. And you just do the confirmation. So confirm that it's like publishing. We expect you to have got permission from other people who are authors, and make sure you have the author lists correct. It's as formal as a research article publication in that regard. You can confirm this, understand I'm making it permanently available. You get the DOI, this is published, it gets sent, we're starting to be indexed by Google Scholar, and your PMC is coming soon. It's a formal thing. It will go to Crossref. If you've linked with ORCID, it will appear on your ORCID profile. People sometimes don't seem to get that this is as formal a publication as other things. And so I understand that obtaining a DOI will make this protocol not editable. If you use reserved DOI, that is also true. It will not be editable afterwards because you need a static version for review and so on. And if you click publish now, that will be published. If you have a premium account, there is no screening. It happens immediately. If you have a basic free account, it will be screened because we do try and stop spam coming through. Many people want to publish about CBD gummies and random other mail enhancements and things like that. So we do screen if you don't have a premium account that we know is trustworthy. And that's it. It's very easy to publish. I won't obviously do that now, but that is how you could publish your protocol if you want to. But I won't finish it out. And what the other thing I was going to quickly show is export. So if you're in the file manager, don't know what my M here is in here. Let's just refresh. My collection, that was it. It just hadn't updated. So when you're in the file manager, actually when you're in a protocol as well, can I get back? There we go. When you're in a protocol, you can export, but you'll obviously only be exporting a single protocol then. So you can do that under more and export. So you can print out the PDF, or you can save PDF or grab JSON content, but you can export to a variety of different places. Again, that will only be an individual protocol. If you've generated a bunch of content and you want to export all of it just to have it wherever in another electronic lab notebook or on your computer as backup, or you want to keep all of this stuff somewhere else, you can export to a variety of different places. So if we just said to your computer, that might take several minutes, so we won't do that now, but you get the gist. We have integrations with a few other places like Lab Archives, OSF, OneDrive, and that will allow you to log into your Lab Archives account if you have one. So that's an electronic lab notebook. I think it's going to take a while because there's a few there. Let me just select one and do that. As archive includes subprotocols, we'll say export. It might still take it. I think my internet is not complying. In any case, it allows you to log into your Lab Archives account, select the notebook where you want to export it to, and export it that way. We have also integrations with two other electronic lab notebooks, SciNote and RSpace. For those, you log into protocols from your electronic lab notebook and you can pull content in that way, and I think maybe push some content too. So there are some nice partnerships that we have. If you know of a different lab notebook or you're working with a different one and it would be helpful to have an integration, feel free to make a recommendation or a suggestion, because we are happy to try and add these things. Similarly, if you think of components that are missing, you can request components. So you can pop in a note and give us full detailed, nice description of what it is that you would want added, and we can put that in for you. So lots of ways you can get in touch. We always welcome the feedback. I think I've covered everything I was going to. I will stop the share. We did have two members, but Sandra, it's just you again now. So I can actually allow to talk if you've got any questions. I'll pop that on. So it might just be easier that way.
Thank you very much. It was really interesting, and you hit it, the most points. I really, the questions I had in my mind. Just one thing I probably missed in the beginning. So if I want to edit a protocol existing one, so I'm within the Quare Blimi group. You might have heard about it. Mm-hmm. And, so we have one version with a lot of comments currently, and I would like to make like a new version out of it to clean it up. So yeah. Then what would be the best way?
So you can just, well, you have two options. You can either make it as, let me share again quickly my screen. I think it's this one. Let's go to a protocol. So you can either make a new version this way, very, very easily, but this will be linked to the previous one. So that might be the way that you want to do it. So we're still in tips and tricks. We'll say next, create new version, and edit new version. So now that you have it, if I view, you can see that I have two different versions of this protocol. So I'm on this one, I'm editing this one, but I can go back to the previous one if I want to, and it will be, that's in there, that's in two collections, da, da, da. So if they were published, excuse me, you'd see them as version 1, version 2, for example. They just have a weird alpha numeric when they're not published this way. But of course, if they're created on different dates, it's easier to see which is the more recent of the two. So that's one way. The other way, if we go back to the first one, because you own it, whoever the owner is, they can just create a completely new copy. So you can make totally new copy maybe just call it copy, or you can mark the old one archived or whatever you want to do, and continue. You have to be the owner to do this. So edit new copy. And now I've got a new copy. So if I go back to my file manager, you'll see I've got, it was the importing steps example. Now you can see the times. That was the first one. And that is the new version of that one that I made. And that's the copy that I made. So you can, for example, I could do, if you were publishing them, you'd see the versions more easily. But for the one that was the second version, I can make that version too. Just so you can see more easily when you're in the file manager, which one's which. Just refresh that.
Yeah, very good hint. Thank you very much.
Okay, so depending on whether you want it completely fresh, this way you can do the copy. Or if you want to be able to look back historically at the comments, then version 2.
Mm-hmm. And you have already implemented a lot of functions, and I was wondering, so we like to implement a formula and show the people how they can calculate something, some factors. Is this already possible, or is it better to include this as a picture, for example?
Yeah, at the moment, it's probably better as a picture. We don't really have, there's some, as you'll see on the, oh, let me share again. Sorry, I should have just kept the share open. If you're in the editor, just go to the bottom, new step, there are a few formula elements. It's not a replacement for tools where there's a lot more, formula functional capabilities. So it's probably, if it's something very complex, better to include an image. We realize that's not ideal, but for now, that's where we're at with formulas.
No, absolutely fine. I mean, we have so many already nice options included. I'm really impressed.
Good. I'm glad. Well, yeah, I mean, you can always try copy paste for things, but when it's special characters and formulas, I would be very careful with that. So that's why maybe an image is slightly safer.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Really I should nice overview.
Great. I'll stop the recording.